Hi, this is Ralph Zuranski. I'm on the phone with Chuck Daniel. Chuck is one of the internet heroes that I met at Joel Christopher's seminar, the Double Birthday Bash. And Chuck has had a long career in technology, working with Microsoft to write software programs. I think he worked with Outlook and did a tremendous amount of work in that area. And in the process of just being involved in technology, he got interested in internet marketing because he knows now that the most important thing for any business is that you need to be able to sell the products and services of that business. And the more successful the sales are, the more successful that business is if they provide good quality service and good quality products. So how are you doing today, Chuck?
I'm doing great, Ralph. Great to be on the call.
Well, I really appreciate you offering to help, and you're one of the heroes that offered to help with providing software for a number of the schools and the different programs, and I'm thankful that you're willing to do that for the schools up in your area once we get ready to start the Heroes program in every community.
Yeah, I'm very glad to help that way, Ralph.
Well, I really appreciate that. And first question I want to ask you is, what is your definition of a hero?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't really have one single definition because, you know, I think people can be heroes in many different ways. Like if you look at say, for example, the firemen or policemen who helped out, or any of the others who helped out with the 9/11 tragedy, for example. That's one type of hero. But I also think people who, you know, consistently and kind of selflessly help others, sometimes even at high personal cost or risk, because it's the right thing to do, are heroes, for example. You know, people who walk their talk even in the face of adversity are also heroes in my mind. Or even people who like inspire or motivate others to do their best are heroes. Children who carry on, like, you know, as best they can with a positive attitude, even though they may have like a challenging disease. I think those kids are really heroes as well. So I don't have one definition, but I hope you can get a sense of the type of person who I think are heroes.
Yeah, I really agree with that. There are so many people around us, and sometimes you wonder, society can't find any heroes. They say, where are the heroes? Well, they should probably look next door. Look at your neighbors, look at the people that you work with. I know everybody goes through difficult times in their lives. What was the lowest point in your life, and how did you change your life path to win a victory over the obstacles? Because I know you had some pretty big obstacles to overcome in your life.
Yeah, I guess a low point for me would have been when I was quite young. I was 21 at the time, and I was attending the university at the University of Alberta in Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada, and I was off for the summer, and I woke up one morning with this giant swelling on my neck. And at first I was kind of freaked out because I hadn't had mumps yet, and that can have some pretty severe consequences if you get it as an adult.
Yeah.
But it turns out I had something worse. I had a form of cancer, the technical term is lymphoblastic lymphoma, and it's a form of cancer which in people of that age, the age of 21. It is normally fatal, and so
wow.
I guess you could say the low point for me is that at that age, when you basically feel like you're invincible, you're getting some news saying, hey, you know what, you're not invincible, and you have a pretty severe disease, and you have to come to terms with it. So for me, that was you know, one of the lowest points in my life, at least in terms of the news and kind of you have to come and gain some perspective that way. And I guess you asked, you know, how did it change my life? I guess it changed it in some pretty fundamental ways. You know, I don't know if I've been victorious over everything I've come up against, but you know, I have taken what I've learned from having cancer and been successful for most times. I mean, you get a perspective that says, you know, like I decided that no matter what, I was going to do everything that I could to try and beat the disease, even though the treatment that they had at that time, you know, was not the greatest. The standard treatment was chemotherapy and radiation, and it wasn't an exact science. They just did the best they could based on, you know, how they had treated people previously. And so what I decided to do was I decided that I was going to try and beat it, and I did beat it, and I'm happy to say that I've been in remission for more than 20 years now. And
wow, that's great.
So, you know, the thing that happened from that is I think I just got perspective of, you know, I'm not invincible, and I have to be, you know, I think part of my cancer was caused by the stress of a lot of things going on in my life just at that time, and so I learned to put things in perspective and not to get so stressed out about certain things, and also the fact that you know, something even as severe as cancer can be beaten if you believe that you can beat it, and that attitude has really affected everything that I've done from that point on.
So having a positive view of setbacks and misfortunes and mistakes is important, you feel?
Oh, absolutely. I don't believe that that I could have beaten cancer unless I had a positive viewpoint. And I mean, it was hard because at that time I was in shock. It was something that you know, I thought, you know, just this is not going to happen to me. I was very healthy, and yet I still got the disease. I believe that most things happen for a reason, and that, you know, you need to look at that reason, learn from it, and move on. And I also believe that people have personal responsibility for the things that happen to them. I mean, some things might seem beyond your control, but I don't think that those things happen very often. And also, if you don't take personal responsibility, then you're really giving up your control or whatever personal power you might have over the situation. And I think it's better for me personally to be directing my life than to leave it up to fate or in the hands of others. I mean, I can depend on me, and so that's kind of a philosophy or a viewpoint that I've had even before cancer, but certainly after having that disease.
Yeah, wow. Well, I guess so. And how important you feel it is to be optimistic about the future?
Oh, I think it's incredibly important to be optimistic. I'd say that I've always been an optimist. Sometimes it's got me into trouble, but what I will say is that you know, being an optimist, I guess how I define an optimist is I always think that, you know, I always have this perspective that the right things will happen and that people will do the right thing, and I think that having that expectation actually causes, for most times, those things to happen, because just by having those expectations, that has an impact that seems to affect the way that things go. And I'm certainly a happier person because of it. You know, certainly I've been disappointed at times, but I would say that the majority of times that I've expected something to happen, it has happened, and so that's kind of my outlook.
Yeah, well, I know that you're very successful at Microsoft and worked there for about 10 years, I think, and you decided that you really wanted to get into a new career as far as marketing things on the Internet and teaching other people how to be successful in marketing things on the Internet. Did it take a lot of courage to pursue those new ideas?
Yeah, it did take a bit of courage, or at least I like to think so anyway. I mean, I've done many things in my life just purely out of interest, and some of them, you know, were out of the mainstream, and, you know, no one else was interested in them at the time. It was just my personal interest. I mean, part of it was I grew up in a small town, but I was interested in things like software, magic, martial arts, and you know, I didn't really have friends that were interested in those, and yet, you know, I still went out and pursued a degree in computer science. I was a reasonable amateur magician. I studied martial arts, and I continue to study them to this day. If you look at my career path, like you mentioned, you know, I developed software for Microsoft in the electronic email server area for many years, like 10 or 11 years, and then because of my interest in or my growing interest in internet and direct marketing, I wasn't quite ready to go out on my own at that time, but I decided that I would switch to a role in program management in the customer relationship management group, because that group had a division that did like electronic email marketing And also I thought that the skill set that the program manager would have to develop, like acting as a liaison to the customer, doing more presenting, understanding what customers really wanted, I really felt that in order to understand that better, that would be a good role for me. And so it was a big decision after 10 years to leave software development and switch skill sets and go into that area. And then when I did finally decide to leave Microsoft and become an entrepreneur in the direct internet marketing business, in big ticket marketing, all those changes required, some courage to pursue it, because they pushed me personally out of my comfort zone in order to do it, because some of the skills I didn't have and I had to develop, and it was a new thing for me. I find learning fun and exciting, so in one respect it's very challenging, but yeah, you have to go outside your comfort zone, and I wouldn't say it was like a huge amount of courage, but it does require, I think, courage just to pursue those things that are new, or just to get out of the everyday types of things that we've been doing.
So it is sort of just uncomfortable in pursuing your dreams. You have to grow as a person. You have to make definite decisions to change your lifestyle. How uncomfortable do you think most people have it when they have to make changes in their lives also?
I think everyone has to experience discomfort of some sort to pursue their dreams. I've been lucky in that, outside of the cancer that I had, most of my discomfort has come from stretching, learning, and growing in areas that I wanted to pursue. I mean, there are many people, that I've read about or heard about who've experienced far more adversity than I have. And it really amazes me, like, to hear their stories. It's like we were saying before the call, even, Ralph. It's really inspirational to hear about people's stories and understand their background. And so I try and read as many of their stories, or hear about their stories, or when I'm meeting people to learn about their stories, because that part of learning about the stories helps bring me up and helps put things in perspective. And so even if I might be feeling a bit down on a particular day, or things aren't going particularly well, just by trying to read a little bit or learn a little bit about someone else, if you look at some of the things that they've gone through, and then you say, hey, you know what, maybe things aren't so bad, just get off your butt and go do something about it, because like I said, the cancer was a tremendous shock, and I did manage to conquer that. But I've read about a lot of other people's stories, and boy, they've overcome even more adversity than I have.
In the pursuit of your dreams, is it important to really believe in your dreams? I know a lot of people that are in your life, they have a tendency not to believe in your dreams and try to squash what you want to do. How important do you feel it is to believe in your dreams?
I think it's really, really important, and that's true. Like you mentioned, there are people. Part of why people, I think, try and dissuade you from their dreams is because you're growing in a certain way, and they're comfortable with you the way that you currently are, and so that's kind of uncomfortable for them, and they don't they're maybe a little bit afraid that the relationship that they've built with you will go farther apart if you go that route, and perhaps they're right, but you have to follow what you want to do. Like, if you want to go in a certain direction and you make up your mind to go there, then you can set some goals and make it a reality. I don't think that I'm a die-hard goal setter, but I have always had some broad strokes for the directions I wanted to go in my life, and then I work toward them. I also believe you have to be very flexible when it comes to your goals. I'm more of a short-term goal setter with like broad strokes for the longer term, and then I'm flexible about what I do to get me where I want to go. And it's a model that seems to have worked pretty well for me. I mean, I do try and plan out about 3 months in advance, kind of on a weekly basis. But my goal list is not as granular than others I've seen. So yes, I do believe that dreams. That you have to believe in your dreams and follow them in order for them to become a reality, because it's just too easy to give up if you listen to everybody else. Yeah,
so you believe that goal setting is important?
Yes, absolutely.
As we go through life and we're seeking after our dreams, it seems there's a lot of doubts and fears that plague us on a daily basis. How are you able to overcome your doubts and fears?
Well, for me, I had a lot of role models. Some direct role models and some indirect role models. Like I definitely believe in mentorship. Friends have helped me sometimes. I do believe in myself, and that partly came from my background growing up, and also the experiences that I've had in my life, like with cancer and other things. I also mentioned before that I try and read something positive or listen to something on tape, and that has helped a lot. So those types of things, most especially the role models, were, I think played a big role in helping me overcome doubts and fears.
It seems that it's a fact of life that people offend us, they upset us, they oppose us, and forgiveness is something that is important. How are you able to forgive those people that upset, offend, and oppose you?
Well, for one reason, I'm pretty optimistic, and I have a very thick skin. So I've never really been one to hold a grudge anyway, because it just takes too much energy. I do get upset at people sometimes, but I try and think about it from their perspective, and sometimes I find out it's me that's being the pain. But I think and then of course, if that's true, then I can apologize and we can move on. I do tend to move forward fairly quickly, and I don't dwell on things too much, other than to try and learn whatever lesson I can learn from the experience, in case, so that I can prevent repeat problems or performances like that in the future. But no, I tend to just say, either to shrug stuff off, or just to kind of look at it and say, okay, well, what can I learn from this, and then move on. And I think the primary reason is it does take a lot of energy to if you don't do that. And, I'd prefer to take my energy and apply it in more productive ways.
Well, I know that you're really interested in serving others, and I wanted to know if you find that as a source of joy. Oh yeah, I do. I've always kind of really liked to help people if I can, and the help, the service or the help that you can give to people, can vary. Like, for example, the help in my case might be technical help because of my background in computers, or from my work at Microsoft, or it might be organizational in nature, like simple things like, for example, I help run the Scholastic book program for my son's class, which is just something that they needed a volunteer to do, or we're just working for charitable organizations. Like I'm currently involved with Ronald McDonald House in Seattle. What they do is they provide homes, like kind of away from home for families with young children with cancer, and also St. Jude's is another hospital for children with cancer. And part of that comes from my experience with cancer, but also because my feeling is that kids shouldn't really have to deal with problems that are that big when they're young. They don't have any bad habits or real stresses or issues that could have caused the cancer. They were just kind of unlucky enough to get it. Yeah. And what really amazes me is you visit like these houses or places like this, and they're still also positive. They're still kids and they're still playing, and that part of it really does give me a lot of joy and faith that these kids can be so positive in spite of the fact that that they've got to get these treatments, and it's really thrown their world around. Yeah, wow. That is amazing. In fact, it's funny that you talk about Ronald McDonald. Randy Chirac, one of the heroes I interviewed yesterday, he actually was Ronald McDonald for 6 years. Oh, was he? Yeah, and he went to all the different places. I didn't know that too, and that he had benign cancer in his leg that caused him unbearable pain. And his story is just amazing too, on how he was able to overcome that, and how that was probably one of the high points of his life, and spending 6 years as Ronald McDonald, going to all the different places where kids were suffering from the different diseases. Yeah, I could see that. I could see him getting a lot of joy out of that, even in spite of the fact that it's that the kids are going through what they're going through. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, how important is it to maintain a sense of humor in the face of serious problems, since you've definitely had your share?
Oh, I think it is important. I mean, I know sometimes when things get tough, no matter what I'm working on, I just make fun of myself because it lightens my mood.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll get on my case about saying, "Hey, quit being so grumpy," or whatever, and there's lots of stuff you can do. And I also know from reading that laughter is supposed to be very sort of therapeutic and healing anyway.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I read someplace that when you're feeling down, just force yourself to smile, because apparently it's impossible to feel down when you're smiling. There's something physiologically about the way that curving your mouth upward that forces your mood, like it's linked somehow.
Yeah.
So I think that having a sense of humor kind of forces you to do that smiling process. And so, yeah, I really think it is important. And also, I think the sense of humor is one way of keeping things in perspective. Like, if you can lighten your mood and really look at it and say, okay, you know, what's going on? And I also think if you're working in a team, that's very important, because it eases the mood of the team and makes them focus more on solving whatever challenge they're trying to solve, rather than getting down and griping about it.
Yeah, boy, that makes a lot of sense. Who are the heroes in your life?
Oh, I've had, like I mentioned before, I've had a lot, some indirect and some direct. You know, first of all, I guess my parents, from early on, my mom always said, you know, you're going to university, you're going to, you know, you can do whatever you want, you just have to decide what you want to do. And that was, just having someone tell you that, I think, when you're young is very important, because you do form your impressions from people, how they act and what their expectations are for you. And so her expectations were very clear, and I think that really helped me definitely go to university and lots of other things later on. And my dad was, you know, he was always kind of joking. He had a great sense of humor, and he did things like he was very willing to change jobs many times to stop being transferred around. Like, he was a bank manager for many years, but that job required him to move from town to town, and he didn't like it. So he kind of sacrificed that to have a more, you know, stable home life. Like, we didn't have to move around as much. So, I mean, just like when we were talking about, you know, what makes a hero, this is something that's a very simple thing, but it's something that you know, that they did that played an important role in my life. I mean, my sister was also you know, very important. She has a gift. She can work with kids that have disabilities like hearing impairment, or maybe they're learning challenged. And so I got a chance to see her work with those kids, and that's very inspiring.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of other sort of role models as well. Like, we talked about inspirational and motivational people. Like, I really enjoy Tony Robbins' work. I have like almost his complete library of stuff, and I enjoy listening to it because he does bring you up, and he does give you some tools that you can use. Another guy, Bill Phillips, like he had the Body for Life program, and you know, single-handedly helped a lot of people get in better shape than they were in, and you know, because of that, really opened up the possibilities that said, hey, if I can get out of the terrible shape I was in into this fantastic shape, I can really do anything. Yeah. You know, I have my own internet direct marketing mentor in Joel Christopher, you know, who's guiding me in that arena. You look at someone like Bill Gates. He's very successful in business. He's created a very successful company. His software is in use almost everywhere, and he's very philanthropic as well. Like, he's, you know, given millions or maybe even billions to the AIDS effort. Yeah. You look, and other people like Bill Phillips as well is involved with the program for terminally ill kids, where they submit a wish, like Make-A-Wish Foundation. Yeah, yeah. You know, and most recently, if you just look at in the direct and internet marketing arena, there's lots of speakers and marketers who are always at events who are heroes of mine because of what they've been able to accomplish. Yeah. You know, just as entrepreneurs and in business. Yeah, mine too. So yeah, lots of heroes, both direct and indirect.
Do you think there's any group of heroes in our society today that aren't getting the recognition that they deserve?
Yeah, I think there are, and I mean, part of it is because we, like at the start when we talked about the definition of hero. I mean, we do have a lot of people who are heroes, and they're very public heroes. But there's a lot of people that work in the background, like the 9/11 folks. Some of them were on TV, and some of them did get coverage. But there were a whole lot of folks who were also there and also helping, and they weren't getting coverage, but they were heroes nevertheless. And people, like I said, people can be heroes in different ways. Like I think the ability to be a successful role model for someone else is a way to be a hero as well. And so, there's lots of people that you never even hear about. And like you were mentioning, maybe the ability to point out to people that, hey, just look around in your neighborhood or indirectly of other people who are doing these types of things and get to know what they do and use that as a role model.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Why are heroes so important in the lives of young people?
I think they're most important in the lives of young people because young people learn by modeling. So you can tell people. I can't even remember what the saying was, but basically, the kids learn by what you do, not what you tell them to do.
Isn't that true?
And so the best thing that you can do is if you want to be a role model, or if you want to be a hero in the life of a young person, whether they're your child or other childs, or you're involved in some sort of a scouting program, Big Brother program, any sort of program like that, or just the kids in the neighborhood are over and you're the dad in charge. You are impacting them from a very early age on just by what you're doing. They are looking at it, and they're evaluating it, and they're seeing it, and they're going to model it because they're soaking up that type of stuff. And so I think that's why it's so important that these people have a positive role model to look up to.
Boy, I totally agree. Kids watch what you do and don't really listen to what you say unless those two things match. Yep.
They can find the difference. They can pick it up even if it's subtle.
How does it feel to be recognized as an internet hero?
Well, I don't really consider myself a hero, Ralph. I mean, if someone can learn from me and benefit from me, I think that's fantastic. And if I can help like a worthwhile cause that I believe in, then I like to do that. Like I mentioned before, I enjoy helping people, and I try to do what I believe is right, and I try to do it consistently. And I think if everybody did that and tried to do their best at it, then we could all be heroes in some way. To their families, to their communities, to their countries. I guess it kind of goes back to why I don't have one definition of a hero, because there's lots of ways that people can be heroes.
Well, do you think the world would be a better place if, especially the media, focused on the good that people do rather than the evil and just the wrong things?
I think so. It definitely doesn't seem to be their model, though. I think bad news tends to sell better. I don't know why we focus on it. I guess maybe that's in some way the inherent nature. People tend to be attracted to bad news. In fact, I think someone tried to start like sort of a good news newspaper once, and it wasn't very successful. But I know for me, I tend not to watch the news at all. Like I rarely watch news programs on TV unless they're educational. I might run across some stuff on the internet, but I just find it's too distracting, and it kind of focuses me on stuff that I don't want to focus on. Certainly, I know that there are bad things happening in the world, and it concerns me. But I want to be able to focus on things that are positive and letting people know about those things, because ultimately that will drive people's behavior and in the right direction. I feel.
Well, that's so true. What do you think about the In Search of Heroes program and its impact on youth, parents, and business people?
I really like the concept behind the program because, first of all, it teaches young people a set of valuable skills, and it does it by providing them with role models who are already successful. And so, those role models can give them a great education and also opportunities to use what they learn. So if they can successfully learn the skills and then use them to either help a business or create a business of their own, they can see how to provide valuable products, and then they can also see that by providing that value, that they can be compensated for that. And that's, fantastic, because they don't teach this in regular school classes, right? You learn some valuable stuff in there, but you don't learn about entrepreneurship. You don't learn about building a business. You don't learn about, how to figure out what is valuable and providing that value, and then it's that value that you get compensated for. And so, I think it has a wonderful effect on the students involved, because they can actually see it work, and then they can take those skills forward with them into whatever they ultimately decide to do. And parents gain confidence because they can say this is something that they can help encourage their children, to do, and this particular avenue is something that is probably more positive than if their time was occupied in other ways.
Yeah.
It's something that benefits like that, and of course business people get the benefit of these students' enthusiasm, and they can get help to accomplish their business goals for probably a lot cheaper than they could if they actually had to hire the experts, and the business people themselves can give back their expertise. So it's a nice big circle where everyone benefits from everyone else. So I really see that as the impact that it has on all of those people.
Yeah, that's really a great perspective. What are the things that parents can do that will help their children realize that they too can be heroes and make a positive difference in the lives of others?
I guess that's a great question. I guess what I would say is, for parents, don't say no if you can avoid it. I mean, you have to be a responsible parent, and you have to give your children guidance when they need it. But really encourage children to try things. Don't discourage them right away, because sometimes you might be surprised to find something that maybe you would have considered impossible or very difficult. For your child isn't, because he might have a unique or novel way of approaching it, or maybe he's got a way that he's figured out, and he brings a new perspective to the table. I mean, children are the most resourceful human beings on the planet, right?
Oh,
They've
true.
got enthusiasm,
Yeah.
they've got dreams. Let them see what they can do. Don't judge them too early. Try and encourage them, and be as good a role model as you can be. Like I said before, kids learn by example and what we do, not by what we tell them to do. I guess the kids are the world's best modelers, so give them something good to model and let them try stuff. Yeah, they might find some disappointments, but if you encourage them to say, hey, it didn't work out this time, so just try something else and keep trying until you get it. If you're committed enough, you're likely to find the answer.
Oh, that's great advice. Well, I really appreciate your time to answer these questions, and I was wondering if you had any words of advice before you go.
Well, I don't know. I'm almost all advised out on the questions, but I think the last thing I said is probably the advice I would definitely give to kids. And I think that the people involved in the Search of Heroes program can really help because of the way the program is structured and because of what I said there. And so it's a real opportunity for them to play a role, and I would encourage them to do that.
Yeah, that's just such great advice. Well, Chuck, I really appreciate your time in answering these questions, and just what a tremendous difference you're making in communities and doing charitable work. And I'm excited about your offer to head up the In Search of Heroes program in your own local town once we get the book In Search of Heroes on the internet published, so kids can actually go in and read about the real heroes that we found and use them as role models.
Well, thanks, Ralph. I was glad to be on the call, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming challenge, and just keep me in the loop, and I'm sure we'll be in touch, because there's lots of stuff on your webpage that I still haven't explored yet that I have to go back out and have a look at. And so I'll probably call you up and say, hey, I just listen to this interview, and I guess that's another piece of advice I would give people is go to the webpage, www.insearchofheroes.com, and check out the program and listen to what people had to say. I mean, there's a lot of really, really talented people out there, and what they've said is inspiring and exciting and maybe sometimes even surprising.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You never know what's going to pop out of a person's head when you ask them a challenging question.
I agree.
Okay, well, again, thanks so much. I really appreciate your time.
Okay, thanks, Ralph.